We are about 3 hours out from tonight's full moon in Capricorn, and the main download I'm getting around this full moon is it's a moon of deep excavation for the purpose of restoration, where things that were hidden can no longer hide, where secrecy can no longer dwell in dark places, and where the truth of our own souls can come up for us to see in a way like we've never seen before, as well as the truth we seek to know and we need to know to elevate and rise into our true organic divine timelines. My name is Solarah. I am a seer. I am a code keeper. I am a timeline reinstator. I am, an advocate and a liberator of those who have been wrongfully spiritually oppressed. I'm a new earth being, and I'm also a tarot astrologer, which is like my own kind of fancy word for what it is I do and what it is you're about to witness with me tonight, or you're about to be a part of with me tonight, should you stay. So you are welcome here for as long as you are an ally in this cause for liberating beings from the false matrix who don't belong there. Just a heads up, I am not a traditional astrologer, as I said before. I practice a system that I created that I coined tarot astrology. I know it's used in other circles, it's what I call it too, but my system, I do use astrological charts as well as numerology, tarot, and channeling. I channel my own soul's wisdom, but I also channel the planets and the luminaries. So as such, I might use a little bit of astrological lingo, but I might not use too much. So if you are a stickler for precise astrology, I'm not the person for you. If you have an issue with someone who is going to look at Western over Vedic, I might not be the person for you. I will tell you that even if I were to pull this up in the Vedic chart, because of the way I do it, I would still catch the energies in the same way. I've tried it many times before. There still is overlap, because when energy wants to express itself, it will express itself irregardless. And whether it's through the actual placement, the degree, the channeling, the tarot, it comes through. Okay, so which is why I really love this system. Okay, so tonight's full moon in Capricorn, just a heads up also, I am no longer with a mic. My mic pooped out on me while I was recording my last video on Solarah Speaks, and I've done my best to, the acoustics in this room help my voice to travel, and that was a problem with the mic, but it might help us now. I've turned all fans off just to make sure that I can make the sound as crisp as possible without a microphone for now. And when I'm ready to get a new microphone, when I found the one I like and I want to invest in, then I will resume. But for now, I'm not letting it get in my way, because this is actually how I began. I began without a microphone. I've only had a microphone for like the past 6 months. So please bear with me. If you would like to, donate to my being able to get one faster, you can do so also. But either way, I will take my time in choosing a microphone this time around, now that I'm a little bit more, well-versed in my needs moving forward. So anyway, let's get into the energies of tonight's full moon. I don't have too much time, unfortunately. I do have a family event to get to, but I did want to get to this reading before the moon actually gets full tonight. So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm sure that you've been feeling this energy over the past week at least, this building. And when we move from the, into the energy corridor between the new moon and the full moon, there's always a building energy as the moon waxes. But whenever the sun is in Cancer and we're dealing with the full moon in Cancer, it always feels somewhat more intense because of the themes that we're dealing with when it comes to Cancer and Capricorn energy, because that's where the moon will always be full when the sun is in Cancer, and when it comes down to what those two signs of the zodiac actually represent in terms of what they do for the energy systems cosmically on the earth. So for those of you who've been with me for a while, you've already heard me say this before, but I'm going to repeat it because it bears repeating. Cancer and Capricorn are two of the most important signs on the zodiac wheel when it comes to the formation and the materialization of what we call our timeline experiences. Cancer is concerned with how we form our timelines based off of our emotional energy. Okay, so your timelines are constructed through here on earth, they're constructed through your thoughts and your feelings. What you think and you feel, you will produce one way or another, whether consciously or unconsciously. Your internal story, what's going on internally in your energy field, whether you're aware it's there or not, it will always materialize itself in your experiences. You're a holographic being. This experience you're in is always just like projecting back to you what's actually going on in your energy field. And I'm going to be very careful. I'm always careful with this because I'm not a person who says like you create this because it's what you want. Understand and overstand, you were duped through the false matrix, through their veil of amnesia, and through their many programs and systems. They conditioned you to believe you're something you're not. And they conditioned you to believe that, the quote-unquote supernatural wasn't real. All of these spiritual things that we've been waking up to, that they're not real, that the only thing that can be trusted is the material. And they did that on purpose so they could continue to invade your energy field, fill you with implants, connect you to entities, and do all manner of things. So you were constantly looping through trauma-based timelines that kept you in a low frequency. Predominantly for those of you who are high frequency beings, for the purpose of feeding, to keep the false matrix at a certain level of frequency and a higher level of density so that beings who don't belong here could continue to stay. Now, through ascension, we've been undoing all of that. We've been waking up. We've been healing. We've been remembering again who we are slowly. We can't just be given all that information instantly because it would put us into it would put many people into psychosis. That's what psychosis is a lot of the time when people go through it, when they begin to awaken. It's that they are taking in too much information too fast, and the densities within their mental and emotional bodies can't hold that new information. It can't hold it, so it gets very, very confused, you could say. So that's what spiritual psychosis is. That's what many so-called mental disorders, including schizophrenia, can be put down to, energetically speaking. Okay, so Cancer is concerned with the foundation. All things are built, all energy fields and timelines are energy fields. You are made up of a big energy field and then little energy fields that exist within, because even your cells and every molecule that makes you up has an energy field. Okay, so Cancer is responsible for the foundation and the formation of the matrix upon which energy fields are sustained. Okay, and what that means is that whatever a foundation is set into is what the energy field will obey. It's the cycle that the energy field will obey. Okay, so you could almost, what I'm channeling, what they're showing me now to try to explain this a little bit. If you have a phone or a digital watch or clock, you might have the option to program it into 24-hour the 24-hour clock, where it goes like from 1 to 23 when it's 11 and then it's 0, 0, 0. Or you might have the option just to keep it at the regular numbers. So it goes 1 to 12, gets to noon, goes 1 to 12 again, gets to midnight, goes 1 to 12. It doesn't go 13, 14, 15. Okay, so that's kind of like how you are programming yourself. You're programming yourself into, the foundation is programming you into how the field is supposed to cycle, because everything is made up of cycles. You are made up of cycles. Your biology itself is full of cycles. You go through them, every day, every hour, every minute, every second. There are different cycles within cycles within cycles that are occurring, and many of them you're not even conscious of, and these are things that keep you alive. So the Cancer energy is is responsible for the foundation of what then repeats and becomes the cycles, and therefore in your personal material experience, the timelines you begin to create off of those cycles. Okay, I hope I'm making sense here. Capricorn is very much responsible for the timing, the order, the structure of cycles, and their ability also to be properly materialized. So remember, I said before, your timelines are materialized on this planes. They come through your mental and your emotional fields, the marriage of your thoughts and whatever feeling propels that thought. Your thought is the energy that is going to create the experience. But the quality and the type of experience is driven by the feeling, by the emotion. So if you think a thought driven by fear and you think the same thought and it's driven by joy, it's going to land you in different places. It's going to put you in different timelines and different experiences. And Capricorn is energetically responsible for how you break through the etheric or the what is invisible, how it becomes visible, right? So your thoughts and your feelings belong to you. They're invisible for everyone else until you speak them or until they begin to materialize into the reality that you are creating, consciously or unconsciously through them. And so Cancer and Capricorn are responsible for that, for us on an individual level, but also on a collective level. Hence the reason why on the globe you have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn are on either side of the equator. So very important balancing factors on the earth planes, specifically when it comes to timelines, foundations, and the gridding structures that are built upon these foundations, or what you could call matrices. Okay, so the gridding note is an important thing to know right now, because through this full moon in Capricorn, if you've been with me for a few months, you'll know I've been getting downloads about this full moon for about 4 months at this point, that it was going to be a big moon, of a big turning point on the earth. This full moon was kind of coming in to determine that. And the information I got around that was because it's been 3 years since our contracts, our false matrix contracts that had us stuck in scenarios and situations because we've been energetically binded. It's been 3 years since those contracts expired. And in that 3-year time, when those contracts expired, etherically, then what occurs is it's like there's a declassification of that information where it becomes available to stream into the sphere of the collective consciousness. And this is why you will notice, if you go back in time about 3 years ago, this is when all of the stuff publicly began to come through about destiny swapping, the shenanigans that people have been up to spiritually within families, friend groups, business, all of this began to kind of blow up around that time. And it's not that that information is not 100% available before. It's available to those who are looking for it and who are aware, but this became like publicly available to the point where it couldn't really be hidden anymore from those who needed to see it and who were ready to see it. You ready? Sorry. Okay, so 3 years ago, the full moon in Capricorn, it was the end of those contracts. In those 3 years, it's been a time of exposure in order for beings to come back into proper alignment with who they are and the choice they want to make moving forward as far as those contracts are concerned. Because just because the contract is over doesn't mean that it can't persist. It can persist for as long as you choose to stay bound to it by way of the behaviors that contract produced. Okay, so in this time we've been getting the opportunity to get our power back from those karmic structures and beings and groups, wake up and to remember who we are and begin the deep work of clearing and remembering. And through that process of clearing, remembering, healing, speaking about it, it has completely dismantled the grid structure that allowed for those contracts to circulate and to continue and to cycle. Okay, so 3 years ago, the contract itself died. And then there's been this destruction of the energy through the mental, the emotional, and the material planes. And now what we're dealing with is the ultimate trashing of the grid, which is really going to have an effect materially on what's going forward. Because right now that energy, yes, had some effect materially, but it's mostly been affecting the way you think and the way you feel, and in terms of material effects, like how you choose to move materially. But now it's like things that have been in the way, trying to obstruct, they are coming up materially to be exposed through this full moon, or this full moon is triggering that. Excuse me a second. So this full moon is triggering that. Okay, so let's get into some of this information, because like I said, I don't have too much time, unfortunately. Let's get into this and see how this is being spoken through the astro chart for today. Okay, so the sun is in Cancer and will be at 18 degrees and 50 minutes when the moon reaches her fullness at 18 degrees and 49 minutes. Okay, so 1818 is a very interesting degree, guys, because it is astrologically, it is a degree of Virgo. Okay, and not for nothing, we do have the South Node in Virgo right now, and we've also got Mars in Virgo. So we've got a lot of Virgo energy at play, a lot of Virgo energy that is, a main part of the story, but a lot of Virgo energy that's also underpinning this, because as we continue, you're also going to see that Venus is at a Virgo degree. Okay, now, what is the significance of Virgo? Well, Virgo works very well with Capricorn when it comes to bringing things into order, but very specifically when it comes to bringing forth legacy, true legacy back into order. The cards of Virgo are the 8, 9, and the 10 of Pentacles. They are the cards of the minor arcana that have to do with the closing out of a cycle as it's materialized. Okay, the 8, 9, and 10 of Pentacles. And if you're moving in your divine alignment, then what is produced through that, through the 9 and the 10 of Pentacles, is sovereign wealth and legacy wealth, right? So these are themes that Virgo deals with. It deals with how you utilize the power of your own energy, your own soul's purpose and calling, and how you also protect that in order to birth your own wealth codes and your own sovereign wealth codes as an individual, and your own legacy wealth codes, so that wealth you've been sent to grow with others. Okay, so and legacy wealth, when I say that, I'm talking in New Earth terms. I'm not speaking about family. I'm speaking about those who you have been divinely sent to create something on the earth in order for you to prosper and multiply, and in doing so, I apologize. It's one of my kids. And in doing so, for the earth to prosper also. You see, you and the earth, me and the earth, we are one with the earth. And as what happens to us happens to her, which is why she's been in such dire straits. But the truth of the matter is, you are supposed to be wealthy. You are supposed to live in overflow. You are supposed to live abundantly. You are supposed to live in harmony with yourself and others, because in doing so, that allows for your contracts with the earth to be properly fulfilled. Okay, so we have something going on here right now with the Virgo Capricorn energy, with the earth's with our true contracts with the earth being reinstated. And it's partly being reinstated because, like I said, there's a complete trashing of certain grids. And the grids that are specifically being trashed are the ones that are like the ones that have set the foundation for all the other scenarios to be built upon. So the deep grids. Deep grids. And in personal reality, this for many of us will have to do with family and ancestry, but when it has to do with the false matrix and our collective energy, it really has to do with the trashing of the grids that were placed originally to create this fuck shit. Completely trashed. They were being taken down. We were getting to the seed point of it all in 2025 and 2024. I apologize. And 2025 is liberation. 9 is a number of liberation. 9 is an astrological degree of Sagittarius, so it speaks about things being liberated and put back in their place, put back within their boundaries. Okay, so this whole year is about putting things back where they belong. And remember, I said to you before that a lot of the whole premise of the false matrix was built upon a siphoning and energy harvesting structure that allowed for lower consciousness beings that didn't belong here to be able to be here off of the ways that they could harvest higher frequency beings. They could siphon them, and they could keep that going by keeping us stuck in a loop, frequentially, and keeping us stuck in internal loops through programming, conditioning, technology, spiritual assault and fuckery. All of this was designed to keep you stuck for the purpose of being food for these lower consciousness beings. So the very grid that was created for that to be able to occur is being trashed right now. Now, I want to be very careful with what I say here, because just because it's being trashed doesn't mean all of a sudden the world's going to change. That's not how it works. Now the work continues because, like I said, you are one with the earth. So if you want to actualize and embody and materialize this truth on the earth planes, you must come into alignment with the complete decimation of those grids internally. And what do I mean by that? We've been programmed against ourselves. We've been programmed to think things about ourselves that weren't true for the purpose of keeping those grids alive. We've been programmed to think things about others and to move in the world with other beings based upon dynamics and social engineering that was designed to have us also feed those grids. So just because the grids won't be taking that so much anymore, because this is also a process, right? Just because the grids won't be taking that up so much anymore because they won't really be in a position to exist in that way, it doesn't mean that energy doesn't still exist in people. And it doesn't mean people aren't going to continue to fight for their false matrix personas and timelines. That's the truth. But it does make things easier because now we're not dealing with energetic constructs also that are designed to keep us stuck. We're still dealing with the dying of the matrix. The simulation is still going to try to spit things at you. The simulation will always come at you to show you where you've been tethered by the false matrix. That's what it's actually showing you. I know it's an attack. I know it feels like shit, but it's showing you where you still have a tie or a link. Okay, so depending on how we respond to that, for example, if you respond when you get attacked with an energy as if you are still less powerful than that thing, then you're still buying the narrative that the false matrix needs you to be in, and you need to overcome that. And we all fall into that, and we've got to rise again and again and again until when these things, it's like combat, until when these things occur, we're able to see it for what it is. Tell it to go fuck itself, go and do what we need to do to make sure that we feel rooted in our own frequency and our truth again, but not let these simulation toddler tantrums and antics cause us to shrink, or cause us to forget who we are, or cause us to be intimidated or afraid. Okay, so 1818. That is also the moon card. And when we're already dealing with a full moon, and we're also already dealing with the moon with the sun in Cancer. And of course, Cancer is a sign of the zodiac that rules the moon. So we're dealing with a lot of lunar energy. Now, what does that mean? Well, for one thing, a lot of the ways that they fucked us over in the Matrix was through lunar and Saturnian energy. They used all the planets in different ways against themselves too. There's no planet that's evil. They use the energy in fucked up ways. That's on the people, not the planets. Okay, so Saturn and the moon are both, the moon is a luminary and Saturn is a planet, and together they rule the cycles. Remember I said everything in you is a cycle. You even, the molecules that make you up have a field and cycles. You as a person, as a whole, have an energy field, and you have cycles, right? And then you've got all of these biological clocks within you, cycles that are going on that you're not even aware of. And those cycles are tuned into, especially the long-term ones are tuned into Saturn, and the shorter-term ones are connected also to the moon. The moon is directly connected to your emotional body, to the waters within your body, to how your flow of even just your DNA, and even how your like everything is under the moon's, I don't want to say authority, but under her influence, right? When it comes to your waters, both etherically and materially. Okay, so when you're dealing with two signs, or a luminary and a planet that is concerned with cycles, you best believe there's some kind of a reset happening, or there's some kind of awareness that's being brought to the cycles, to the timelines. Okay, so when you're dealing with the moon, you're also, especially the full moon, you're dealing with the exposure of things that have been hidden in the dark, that the full moon in her luminescence begins to light up like the sun in the day. Right? And you're also dealing with Cancer energy. The sun in Cancer is always very powerful, eclipsing energy, as I see it. It will bring up the things that need to be eclipsed out of your reality. It will bring up the source of how you are creating. And that's the purpose. As a high frequency creator being that is source coded, you are supposed to be able to see how you are creating, what your thoughts and your feelings are producing, what the people around you, having those people around you, what that's producing for you. You're supposed to be able to see that, so you then can make the calibrations within yourself or within your external reality, so that is no longer the case. Okay, so the sun in Cancer at 18 degrees, let's break it down in tarot astrology. That's the sun card, and then you're dealing with the Chariot, which is the Cancerian energy. 18 degrees of Cancer is the Three of Cups. It's the Three of Cups. So this is really very much honing in on those third energies that come in to either wreak havoc upon your internal emotional harmony and balance with yourself or with another, because Two of Cups is your internal harmony emotionally, but it's also the harmony you share emotionally with another person. And the Three of Cups is that third energy that comes in to either stabilize that harmony all the more, or to upset it in some way, shape, or form. And ultimately, you have the decision to make whether that upset is going to help you harmonize more deeply, or it's going to, send you into a tizzy, which then feeds their grids. Your harmony feeds the new earth grids. Your being in a tizzy feeds the false matrix grids. Okay, and that's not to, to throw judgment or to shame in any way, because we all have a process. We have to get there. And there are times, like this weekend was a doozy for me. I had to, when you're integrating things, it's only natural that you're going to have to experience some of those feelings that are lower vibrational. You're going to have to feel the shame to identify it. You're going to have to feel the guilt to identify it. You're going to have to feel the fear, the pride, the anger, the envy, whatever it is. You're going to have to feel it to identify it. But what is most important is then what you do once you identify it. Do you push it away and make someone else feel bad, or make yourself feel bad? Or do you get to the root cause of why you're feeling that way? Whether it's because of someone else's projection, or whether it's because of a story that you need to work through and come to terms with internally also. So Cancer is a sign that really takes you into the depths of your own unconscious and subconscious engineering that ultimately is what births the timelines that you don't want, and the miscreations you keep on producing, because these are things that you can't see and you need to see, because they are responsible for producing your reality. Okay, so with the sun in Cancer at 18 degrees, it's all the more a spotlight on that, and specifically those interfering energies that want to come in and take you out of harmony and pull you into despondency, right? The moon in Capricorn at 18 degrees, that's the moon, that's the devil, and that 18 degrees is the Three of Pentacles. So the devil is actually about how you choose to materialize on the earth. Okay? You are here to materialize, but you are not here to lose yourself in the material realm. When you lose yourself in the material realm, you get binded into situations and scenarios that get you locked and your frequency drops. The point is that you come here, you learn how to use your sacred codes to materialize things that are in alignment with who you are and what brings more prosperity to you and to the earth. Without resorting or falling into greed or falling into behaviors where you put material things ahead of yourself and ahead of others. Okay, so the moon is also showing us that. It's showing us where people have been like that in our realities. It's showing us where we're like that too. And all of this is fear-based behavior rooted off of needing to survive in the false matrix. So all of this is coming up to get rid of those survival templates. You didn't come here to survive and to scrape by. You came here to thrive, and you were given everything you needed to do that. And I'm talking about internally. Your spiritual inheritance is accessed internally. It's accessed through the hermit, through Virgo. That's where your true legacy lives, right? And this is this is the doorway back. The doorway back to your true abundance, your spiritual inheritance that all of these people are always going on and on about as if it's supposed to come through someone else and through money. It might come through that way eventually, but not until you walk through that door internally to get there. Because everything that you are experiencing in your external reality, it first occurs internally because you're a holographic being. So all of this is coming up to remind you how to get back to that place of producing your wealth in real, autonomous, sovereign ways. Yes? Okay. Mercury in Leo at 13 degrees. So Mercury's already gone ahead. She's in Mercury always comes Mercury and Uranus always present themselves to me without gender. So Mercury, they are in Leo, gone ahead, and will be also coming into, I think we're in the retrograde shadow energy, but Mercury in Leo is already attuning you to making maybe tough decisions that honor your heart instead of being disloyal in any way to pull yourself back into cycles. So Mercury in Leo is speaking to you, and through the 13-degree mark, that's a death card in the tarot. Scorpionic energy, the death card. So it's a point of reckoning. A lot of reckoning energies occurring through this full moon, right? So let's break it down. Mercury is the magician, Leo is the strength card, and the sun. 13 degrees of Leo is the 6 of Wands, which connects us to the 8 of Wands. Okay, I mean, not the 8 of Wands, to the 8-8 portal. So the 6 of Wands rules over the first couple of days of August, the first like maybe 10 days of August is 6 of Wands energy, depending on the year. So in other words, it rules over the second decan of Leo energy. And the 8-8 portal, 8th of August, will always fall in the second decan. So it's the second decan of Leo, making it the 6 of Wands. So Mercury is already speaking to us, already preparing us possibly for something that is supposed to be occurring for us as we make decisions now through the 8-8 portal that's coming up. And not for nothing, that 13-degree mark, it's a degree of Aries astrologically. So in the tarot, it's connected to Scorpio, which is a death card. But in astrology, 13 is connected to Aries. So Aries and Scorpio, that's the Tower card because that's Mars energy. So we're dealing with a lot of like reckoning, death, and instant rebirth, depending on how you move it. And as I say that word instant, they're like, yes, that's an important word to hone in on, because what we are moving towards now is the remembrance of how we are able to command time. Command time. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Through your programming into limitation, you've been taught that it takes a certain amount of time for something to happen, and the only way for you to produce a certain result is through drudgery and doing things over and over again and time and all of this shit. And that's not necessarily true. It's only true because you've bought that, and your ancestors bought that, and we've been replicating it genetically and generationally to the point where we have slowed ourselves down because we've accepted this lower state of consciousness. But the truth of the matter is, you can materialize things instantly, and once upon a time you knew how to. Once upon a time, you were so connected cosmically, and you could pull in all the energies that you were allowed to pull in accordance with your own source code and your own, your own blueprint and your own unique energy signature, connected you to different cosmic centers, different stargates, different ports that allowed for you to pull things in cosmically where you could materialize just by thinking and wanting, and it would be here. Because that's how powerful your consciousness was, and how connected you were to your consciousness, and how connected you were to source, because that's a reflection of how source creates, right? And once upon a time you could do that, but now through the millennia of them programming us and us giving birth to beings and then snuffing out the ones who are high frequency, who were able to pull this remembrance up, and making sure that every time they were destroyed or they destroyed themselves in order to keep that, keep that from going into the collective energy. That's what they did with Yeshua, right? Because the more people that begin to wake up, the more it changes the collective frequency and picture, and the more it wakes up other people and helps them to remember too. So at every turn, this is why high frequency beings, you've been being targeted, because they didn't want you to wake up the entirety of the false matrix and destroy it. Well, sucks to be them, because you did. And now you're dealing with the aftershocks of it all. You're still dealing with the aftershocks and the aftermath. So let's go into Venus and Gemini. Venus and Gemini at another Virgo degree at 6. Venus is the Empress. Gemini, again, is the magician, but also the lovers. So we're talking about the sealing in of, or the birthing, but I'm hearing sealing. The birthing and the sealing in of the true materialization of your divine contracts here on earth as you reprogram your mind to adapt to the truth of who you are. You can't bring in your divine contracts if you don't know who you are, because you will pull in accordance with what you think. So if you think lowly of yourself, you pull in lower timelines, lower experiences. This is why they wanted so many of you abused, because when you're abused, it lowers your esteem, it lowers your ability to, see yourself in the way you need to see in order to know who you are. This is the purpose of the abuse cycles and narratives in the false matrix. This is the purpose of why many of you were in families where from the jump you were scapegoated and energy harvested, because from the jump you were a threat, and they needed your confidence and your esteem to stay in the gutter, so that you wouldn't even begin to think that you could be who you actually are. Right? But Gemini energy comes to break the mirror. If you let it, it comes to break the illusion, to free you of the mind control structures of the false matrix. Because everything in the false matrix was a mind control exercise that connected you to its entities. And the minute you started to think apart from the way that they needed you to think in the false matrix was the minute you got attacked through their entities. Now, it sometimes came through people, because through social engineering, if you started to act a certain way, then you get rejected, you get rebuked, you get shamed, and that in and of itself is the false matrix entity running through the person, running through you maybe once upon a time, because we all were under that programming in just varying ways. Because even that not being able to see yourself is entity control. It's entity control, because in your right mind, you would never have some of these thoughts about yourself or others. That's not you. That's not you. Those are entities that you've taken on because of programming and because of other people's projections and pushing energies onto you. Everything in the false matrix was connected to an entity. That's why the minute you start to think a certain way or feel a certain way or move a certain way, you get backlash. And it doesn't even matter if you're in hermit mode. It comes to you some way, shape, or form. It will come to you until you completely have annihilated that false matrix out of you by going in direct combat with the thoughts and the feelings that they need for you to be in order to subscribe to the stories they need to keep you plugged in. Being plugged into the false matrix is not just one big plug. It's every way you've been programmed against yourself is a plug into the false matrix, right? So Venus in Gemini at 6 degrees is here to help you birth your true divine contracts and alliances that are born through you knowing who you are and freeing yourself of the mind control that still would seek to plug you into the mental programs of the false matrix that cause you to think in ways that produce lower timelines and realities. And for many of you, those of you who are, that you are part of divine unions, divine partnerships, the truth of what it is you need to know is going to be coming out through this full moon too. In good and bad ways, the truth of what you need to clear within your own fields, the truth of what they need to clear in their own fields, the truth of what you need to clear in your combined fields, the truth of what you need to see in terms of third-party energies trying to mess emotionally with you and your union. This is what's happening right now too. And it's all for the sake of bringing the clarification that is necessary to birth from clear waters. Remember, you're dealing with your emotions here. Cancer is the first water sign of the zodiac. You birth all your timelines elementally through the waters. Everything comes onto the earth through the waters. You get to different places cosmically through the waters, which is why you can close your eyes and you can imagine and you can dream and you can meditate. You're going through the waters to take your mind a certain place, but your mind is being transported through the waters. Your imagination is connected to the element of water. Your emotional fields are connected to the element of water. Okay, I'm going to go to Mars in Virgo, and I want to talk a bit about Uranus, and then I'm going to have to run. So we got Mars in Virgo at 13 degrees. So Mars is the Tower. That's that Aries Scorpio card I was talking about. Virgo is the Hermit. 13 degrees is the 9 of Pentacles, and 13 again. We had that with the Mercury. We have 1313. This is the Divine Mother showing up very powerfully here today. And she, Cancer is already one of her big signs of representation where she shows up. Like that 4-4 number. Cancer is the 4th house. The 4 is a Cancerian number. That 4-4 number is her saying, I got you. I got you. You're good. You're protected. And it speaks of foundations. But 13 is also her number. It breaks down to 4, but 13 in general is her number because 13 is a true number of cycles. It's a true cyclical number in many ways. There are technically supposed to be 13 months in a year, 13 zodiac signs, 13 moons. And they X that out to bring confusion to your biological cycles so that they could use the moon to siphon you. And they could also X out the feminine principles that are responsible for creation, rebirth, balance, nurturance, all of those things that the false matrix has been lacking and has caused our descent as human beings. Human beings are fallen for the most part, because how many human beings do you know that are humane? And so many people are running around here trying to reach their godhood, and they haven't even learned how to be humane. How's that going? That's the love and lighters, always trying to become God when they can't even be a fucking human. That's not how it works. And that's what Aquarius is here to do. Only Aquarius could help us rise back into a new golden age from where we've been. Because Aquarian energy is all about returning to true humanitarianism. Not performative. That's why many of these beings are going down, especially in the spiritual community. The ones who've been just doing it performatively without the true heart or the true solar codes to walk it out. You're going to find a lot more exposure continues to happen. Okay, so That's at Mars in Virgo also. Mars in Virgo is also fighting for your sovereign wealth to return to the planet, fighting for you to get your legacy back, fighting for you to have energetic sovereignty from the false matrix, its entities, its grids. This is Mars fighting through Virgo on our behalves. And I'm interested now that I'm saying that when the new moon in Virgo and the full moon in Virgo, what degrees are going to be. The new moon in Virgo, oof, it's 0 degrees, damn it. And then the full moon will be a lunar eclipse at 15, so it's close to that 13, but not exactly. That's interesting. Oof, yep, a whole new world's about to be, a whole new world of legacy. As I said, that a butterfly just flew past my window. The new birth legacy holders are being birthed. And that's what this has felt like, this Cancerian energy. It's felt like serious birthing energy right now. We are in a serious birthing portal. What are we birthing? Well, it looks like new earth legacy. True earth legacy holders are coming through this portal. Or being materialized, I should say, because we always were here, but it's being materialized. Through also the untethering of us from these entities and the grids and all of that. Like there's a further deeper removal of that, to the point where the only way, we're getting to a point where the only way that we can't materialize our truth is because of the internal programming. It won't have anything to do anymore with the false matrix at a certain point, because it's in such a state of disrepair at this point that it really will come down now to people doing the internal work truthfully, not just performatively, and not just trying to ride off the coattails of others and taking from others and not replenishing them and all that shit. All of that is ending through this full moon, or it's going to begin to end because it's going to become so fucking obvious, right? Because I think I wrote about this earlier, like the false matrix was designed to siphon high frequency beings, and what I've noticed in the spiritual community is that still goes on. So in other words, there are people who will not, and this has been a big conversation on Threads this week, there are people who will not pay beings who actually liberate the fuck out of their souls, but they'll go pay the celebrity fake performative ones. They'll pay them hundreds and thousands of dollars, but they'll scoff at even tipping a person who literally raises their frequency with their presence. And that's about to stop, because all of those so-called celebrity influencer, false light spiritualists, they've been siphoning the very beings you refuse to pay. The very beings that have been, ostracized and not been taken care of are the ones that have been siphoned. And then people in this so-called spiritual community, because they're not doing the internal work and proper discernment, are running and giving their money away. And they're giving their money away and causing beings with the true wisdom to be siphoned as a result. But through that new moon in Virgo at the 0 degrees, the true legacy holders and keepers of those codes on the earth, they're being birthed again. And that's why these beings will continue to be exposed. But it's better if you expose them first, internally, like have some discernment. That's what I'm speaking about. And I'm not like, I'm not talking to you directly per se, because from what I know, like how I interact with most people here, they're aware. But I'm saying in general, like, this is helping us all to have deeper discernment of how we give away our energy, what we're feeding. Are we feeding the new earth, or are we feeding the false matrix? Because we can't have both. We can't have both. Uranus, I'm going to move to Uranus in 0 degrees because I got to get going. Uranus in 0 degrees is opening a big ass fucking portal into the expansiveness of mind, where we're able to remember how to materialize instantly again. Where we're able to remember who we are. Where we're able to stream in not only the things we need, but right now we are streaming in the true grids are coming back through us on the earth planes. They're streaming in as we remember, as we see, as we accept what it is we're seeing. And we begin to anchor it in, and we begin to root it in as truth. Because Uranus is helping us to once again expand into what it is we've been lied about and we've told it's not possible, when that actually is who the fuck we are. And I just want to give let me talk about the Uranus. Uranus is the Fool, Gemini is the Magician and the Lovers. And the 0 degree is the Fool again. That's what the 0 is. And 0 degrees of Gemini is the Ace of Swords, or the Ace and the 8 of Swords. So it's beginning to bring clarity to all the ways you've been mentally entrapped. It's coming in as Uranus moves through Gemini. Okay, but right now we're at the 0 degree. So the 0 degree holds the fullness of the potential of everything that this is about. So in other words, the themes we've been dealing with since Uranus entered Gemini a few days ago, these are the themes that are going to be honed in on in the next 8 years that Uranus is in Gemini. These themes that are front and center while Uranus is at that 0 degree mark. And a quick shout out, or a quick look at Lilith at 11 degrees, who's opened the fucking gates for what is yours to come back. 11 degrees Scorpio. I've spoken about this Lilith and Scorpio energy before, how she is here helping you to take back what has been siphoned from you through the false matrix, spiritual and black and gray markets, right? For as long as you know who you are, you can get your shit back. But more importantly, because you're an infinite being, so you really don't even need that shit back, because you're getting to that place where you can just start pulling in more anyway, right? But more importantly, this is to aid in the complete destruction of those marketplaces that were built off of your codes. The ways that you were duped in the false matrix into giving your stuff away through birth certificates, through passports, through national numbers. All of those things were contracts. They were occult claims that were made over your energy that was then utilized in their marketplaces, their spiritual marketplaces, that they then gave their secret society initiates first dibs on. Okay, I just did a whole video on that on Solarah Speaks. If you're interested, I just did a decree on that too, on how you can resurrect yourself from those death contracts and remove yourself and remove the invisibility spells that have been on you in order to keep you from properly living, being alive here on Earth. Because you've been dead in the false matrix. You've been a non-playing character. You've been a non-playing character in their system, and you didn't even know. This is why you couldn't move and accrue and do things that other beings would do. The only way to come to life in their game was to play their game, and a big way was through their orders and their societies, etc. Okay, so that's what I have for you. I have many decrees that are available for free or for inspired donation. I have other things on there. I just released a New Earth financial reset package that includes a decree, a meditation prompt, some light-coded art, you know, how to work with getting your wealth codes back through the planetary themes. That's also available on my Ko-Fi shop. I'll put all that information in the description box below, as well as I'll pin it in the comments. If you would like to book a tarot astrology personal reading with me, I'm not doing reports anymore, I'm still doing readings, audio and one-to-one online. You can do so by emailing me directly, solarahspeaks@proton.me. If you'd like to book a soul recovery session with me, a 60 or a 90 minute, you can do so also through my Ko-Fi shop. If you would like to connect with me more on a daily basis, you can do so through my platform, solarah.xyz, where I write there on the daily, daily alchemy. I produce there every day for free also, and it will be sent to your mailbox if you sign up over there for that too, as well as other membership tier experiences there, where you can have access to more of my writing, more of my audio releases, and if you're in my Jade members group, then we also meet monthly. We have an online group Q&A every month, the last Sunday of every month. So yes, that's how you can connect with me past this. And also I have another channel, Solarah Speaks. That's where I do my channeled messaging, and I'm there, tend to be there more often. I'm here twice a month or every 2 weeks for the moons to do these readings. So I wish you, you know, I wish you whatever it is that is in alignment with who you are and how you're rising in this full moon in Capricorn. May those of you who've been wrongfully siphoned absolutely obliterate those grids internally and come back into the fullness of your value and your beauty, so you can begin to build on the earth again, with those experiences and timelines as your reflection. I will see you again soon. Until then, be well.